Hey everyone, welcome back to Art Spark Texas's Texas Stories series. This is where we take a look at art projects that are going on all around our state and in our city. We get ideas, we create projects, we share with one another. Join us each week virtually as we'll be connecting and not letting this pandemic stop us. This week we'll be learning about Cinco Press of El Paso, Texas, and using some of the books that they publish as inspiration for creating our own illustrated story. The supplies you'll need this week include a pencil for writing, some paper, and some markers or whatever you like to illustrate with. These could be color pencils, this could be crayon, this could be paint, up to you. Before we get started creating our own illustrated story though, I want you to start by watching the video on Cinco Press. You can click on the link in the upper right hand corner here to learn more about what they do, the books that they publish, as they are a wonderful independent publisher here in the state of Texas. Now that you've watched the video on Cinco Press, you've got a better understanding of their business. They've published some wonderful books over the years, and we're going to use that as our inspiration. In step 2, we're going to develop a main character for a story that you and I will write. We're going to decide on the format of your page and sketch out the character in the background in step 3. And then in step 4, we'll finalize your artwork by adding color, adding the text of your story, and maybe even doing some translation into Spanish to make it a true multicultural book experience, just like Cinco Press does. Let's begin in step 2 by developing our main character. We're going to be using this handout that will be included in your emails. Go ahead and print that out, and let's begin walking through the steps to create this main character. If you're not able to print the handout, no worries. We'll be going through each of these steps in the video. For this example video, we'll be using the story Ya La Llorona, which was one of the first books published by Cinco Press by author Joe Hayes. We'll use the main character from this story, Maria, as our example character as we're filling out our worksheet. Your main character will look different, but you're still inventing that. So just go through this process with us and hopefully it'll bring some ideas to mind. Okay, so let's go through the handout together. Our first question we have to answer is your main character an animal, plant, human, or other? Maria is a human in this story, so we'll circle human. Next, on to the section that says facts about your character. We need to record some facts on your character. What is their name, for instance? What is their age? What are their family members? You may not know this information yet, as we are just beginning developing this story, but let's make some choices. Let's come up with a name for a character and an age. In this example, Maria is our character's name, but she's also known later in the story as La Llorona. Her age is a young adult. Her family members in the story include a ranchero, or a cowboy, a grandmother, and her children. We have to come up in the next section with where do they live. In the story, it tells us a humble little village, and so you can come up with any type of setting for your story. It doesn't have to be a specific place like Seattle, Washington. It can just be a village or a town, or maybe an area of land like a desert or a forest. In our next section, we're coming up with character traits, and this is in the bottom left-hand corner of our page. Try to think of at least 3 character traits that could describe your character. In this example, Maria is beautiful, but also prideful and deceptive. Now you have some idea of what this character is going to be like. So in the right-hand column, you can begin sketching your character. You can sketch the character's full body or just their face. What I've done is created a simple pencil sketch here of a young adult's face with her hair in front of her eyes a bit on the left side of her face. This is Maria, my character. And then once you've went through those previous steps, now, without even knowing, you've started to develop a plot for this story, or possibly what's going to happen to this character. And that's this last section in the bottom right-hand column. In this example, I've written that Maria falls in love with the ranchero man, but ultimately has her heart broken and loses her children and her life in the river. That's the basic summary of this story. Your story will take a different direction because your character is going to be different. Give yourself some time with this worksheet. It's going to take time to develop a character and a plot and a setting. Possibly you want to tell a story that you've heard before. Joe Hayes' book draws on memories that he had as a young man of this story being told to him. Perhaps there's a story in your past that you want to tell, or you may want to make something up that's brand new. Both are fine. In step 3, we start putting together the pictures with the text. And we want to begin with this main character. In my example, you see Maria, the main character, on the left-hand side of the page, but you may want your main character on the top of the page or on the bottom of the page. And you can find whatever format works for you. How I've planned it is Maria will be on the left and my text will be on the right. It's kind of a common children's storybook illustration format. Feel free to follow that or take another direction. Let's walk through my process of creating this illustration. After I sketch my character face, I go ahead and start thinking about my background. I know I want the setting of this picture to be beside the river, since the river is important in this story, and I go ahead and sketch out the title La Llorona, or the title of my character. Then I take some markers and I darken some of those areas in. I suggest drawing with pencil first, then marker second. Claim those lines that you like with the marker, and you can go back in and erase the pencil out later. In the last step of planning out my illustration, I go in and add the details. I add a few rocks to the background landscape. I add a few lines in her face. I want my character, La Llorona, or the weeping woman, to have a bit of an aged look on one side of her face. As you're developing your main character and your illustration, be sure to include those details in your picture. In step 4 of our process, we're going to incorporate the text of the story and also add color to our picture. You can see in my example here how I've incorporated some of the text of the plot into the river of the picture. Then I'm going to go in and add a bit of color. I also have the suggestion of making your picture more multicultural by translating out some of the plot into Spanish. Try using Google Translate to do this for you. You can see how I've plugged in my text in the left area of Google Translate under English, and on the right I can select the language that I want it translated into. For this project, I've chosen Spanish. This is a great tool that can really just open your stories up and make them more multicultural. I incorporated the Spanish into the bottom of my picture, as you can see here, and my illustration's done. I hope this was a fun project for you. Take your time with this. We're starting a story here that could lead to something bigger, so just think of this as the beginning. Thank you for joining us for today's project. I hope it gave you a new perspective on art making. Don't forget to check us out, ArtSpark Texas, on the link below, and we hope to see you next time. Bye. Thank you to our ArtSpark funders: Texas Commission on the Arts, Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation, St. David's Foundation, Austin Public Library, Cultural Arts City of Austin, and the Donald D. Hamill Foundation.